Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yashoda Nandana Braja Janarandana Yashoda Nandana Braja Janarandana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vala Giridhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Giridhari Yashoda Chandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashoda Chandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Hanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaris Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaris Yashoda Vandana Rajajana Randana Yashoda Vandana Rajajana Randana Yamuna Tira Vanachat Yamuna Tira Vanachat Jaya Radha Amadava Kunjabihari Jaya Satham Madhava Kunjabihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivarit Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivarit Yashoda Rajajana Sriyana Yashoda Dana Rajajana Dhanjana Yamuna Tira Avana Yamuna Tira Vijaya Radha Punjabi Vijaya Radha Punjabi Jaya Sri Jana Alabha Giri Varasa Jaya Sri Jana Alabha Giri Varasa Yashodan Vandana Bhajajanu Sindana Yashodan Vandana Bhajajanu Sindana Yamuna Tira Bhavana Jahara Yamuna Tira Bhavana Jahara Vijaya Pujabi Hara, Jigaya Sada, Hara, Pujabi Hara, Yes, Pigana Pala, Sala, Giri Maratala, Pigana Giri Maratala, Yashodan, Nidanam, Jadana, Sindana, Yashodan, Nidanam, Jadana, Sindana, Shamuna, Tira, Havana, Shamuna, Tira, Havana, Chidaya, Punjabi, Chidaya, Punjabi, Chidaya, Chidana, Giri Bharat, Chidaya, Gopijana Sala, Giri Bharat, Yashoda Sandana Pajana Sandana Yashoda Sandana Pajana Sandana Yamuna Tira Savana Yamuna Tira Anachara Chigaya Ada Ada Secondary Punjabi Gaya Sigana Para Kiribara Para Gaya Sigana Para Kiribara Yashoda Indana Bhajadana Indana Yashoda Indana Bhajadana Indana Yamuna Tira Bhavana Sala Yamuna Tira Bhavana Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Ram Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna Hare Krishna Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Rama Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Jaya Prabhupada 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada Ram Vishnupada Param Sapiri Dakacharya Shota Shati Shukimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. His Confounder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ram Vishnupada Param Sapiri Dakacharya Shota Shati Shukimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Granthar Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gorkamanande Haribol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 5, Chapter 1, The Activities of Maharaj Priyavata, Text 3. Mahattam Kalu Viprashe Uttama Shloka Padayo Chaya Nirvrita Chitanam Nakutumbe Sprahamati Mahattam Kalu Viprashe Uttama Shloka Padayo Chaya Nirvrita Chitanam Nakatumbe Sprahamati Mahattam Kalu Viprashe Uttama Shloka Padayo Chaya Nirvrita Chitanam Nakatumbe Sprahamati. Mahattam, of great devotees. Kalu, certainly. Vipra Rishe, O great sage among the Brahmanas. Uttama Shloka Padayo, of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Chaya, by the shade. Nivrta, satiated. Chitanam, whose consciousness. Na, never. Kutumbe, to family members. Spreha mati, consciousness with attachment. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Elevated Mahatmas who have taken shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are fully satiated by the shade of those lotus feet. Their consciousness cannot possibly become attached to family members. Purport. Srila Narottam Das Thakur has sung Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Sushitala Ye Chayaya Jagat Judaya. He describes the shade of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda as being so nice and cooling that all materialists, who are always in the blazing fire of material activities, may come under the shade of his lotus feet and be fully relieved and satiated. Distinction between family life and spiritual life can be experienced by any person who has undergone the tribulations of living with a family. One who comes under the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord never becomes attracted by the activities of family life. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, Param Drishtva Nivartate. One gives up lower engagement when he experiences a higher taste. Thus, one becomes detached from family life as soon as he comes under the shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Om Gina Tiramandasya, Ginanjana Shlakaya, Chakshmitamyana, Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhara, Shri Sundar Bhaktivinoda, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So Maharaj Parikshit is continuing his questioning of Shukadev Goswami concerning the activities of Maharaj Priyavata, who is, of course, can the talking in the Pujai room be lower volume, please? Okay. So yes, Maharaj Priyavata was renounced. He was in pure Krishna consciousness, performing his austerities and various other activities, but eventually took up family life. And Maharaj Parikshit is asking about this, and that and pointing out that those who have taken shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are fully satiated, that they don't desire any other type of engagement. So how is it that Maharaj Priyavata became attached to family life, or became engaged in family life? And Tom Das Thakur, Nitai Padakamla, Koti Chandra Shuitala, Ye Chayaya Jagat Judaya, where he's saying that one takes shelter of the lotus feet of Lord Nityananda, then be saved from the blazing fire of material activities. And in many places throughout Shastra, material life is compared to a blazing fire. We actually sing this every morning in the first verse of Guru Vastakam, Samsara Davana Adali Loka. We're told that the spiritual master, who is a representative of Lord Nityananda, saves us from the blazing fire of material existence. And we can see factually that material existence is a situation like a blazing fire. In a blazing fire, one is always in danger. And also, in material existence, one is also in danger. And both are considered very miserable conditions. In the material world, there are three types of miseries. Adibodhika, Adidevika, and Adiatmika. And we're always experiencing these miseries in material life, however great or small. Sometimes when we hear the word miseries, we think of uh, great, great tribulations, great upheavals in our life, which is true, but those are in fact miseries. But also in uh, there's lots of miseries that are just what we accept as day-to-day activities. We hear uh, adibodhika, miseries caused by other living entities. But and we think, oh, that's when somebody comes and beats me up, or if I get attacked by a tiger or a lion or some other ferocious animal. That's adibodhika. But also just what we accept as uh, just a fact of doing life, the cost of doing business, if you will, is also a misery. So if one uh, has to support oneself financially or support one's family financially, one has to go get a job, usually. And in having a job, one has so much distress by uh, having by having to cater to the whims of one's employer, of one's boss or manager. And usually we think this is just the fact of doing life. That's just uh, the way that things are. But actually, this is also considered a misery. And this shows actually how the material world, how the blazing fire of material activities is actually more dangerous than an actual blazing fire. Because if there's a blazing fire, then everybody realizes that there's danger. Uh, if this building somehow or other caught on fire, everyone would flee. Uh, and we know, uh, we even have this experience going through school, for example. I know that every year we had so many fire drills because they're teaching us of the danger and how to respond to the danger. For example, in Pennsylvania, you need 4 fire drills a year for every school year. And that's because to teach that everybody recognizes that a blazing fire is a dangerous situation and that one should remove oneself from that situation. But material activity is likewise a dangerous situation. But many times people don't realize how dangerous a situation it is. Because by performing material activities, we get further and further entangled in material nature, in Maya, which covers us from realizing Krishna. And in doing so, uh, we become further and further dissatisfied with everything, with our activities, even if we can't uh, figure out the cause of that dissatisfaction. One actually tries to mitigate the uh, pain or mitigate the miseries of this blazing fire with another blazing fire in material life. So many times people say, oh, I'm feeling this way or that way, or I'm unsatisfied with this activity or that activity. Let me change my material situation. let me quit this job and find another job. Let me uh, break up with this person to find another relationship, thinking that if I give up the blazing fire, thinking of this particular activity, if I give up this particular material activity and replace it with another material activity, then I will be satiated. Of course, then we see and may have experienced ourselves that when we change the material activity, this might help us for a little bit. We might feel some relief for a small amount of time, but then the uh, miseries come again. We also feel miserable in whatever new position that we have taken on. And in uh, when we see this, when we see the situation, we usually don't think that it is a problem with the whole system of material activities itself. We think that it is a once again a problem with whatever particular material activity we have chosen to replace the former material activity with, and then we replace again, and we continue in the cycle of material existence. It is a very rare that somebody has the intelligence by themselves to come up with the uh, or come up with the realization that it is the whole network of material activities that is the cause of misery and not any particular material activity. You might find some rare person who comes to that conclusion just by their own reasoning skill or by observing. But uh, even those people cannot, by their own uh, intellectual power, their own reasoning power, come to the ultimate solution of material life, which is coming under the shelter of the lotus feet of the head, which is the only actual permanent way of stopping material activities. Even if one becomes uh, liberated uh, at the impersonal level, one eventually comes back down, because it's described that since there is no activities in the Brahman effulgence, that one is not satisfied there and one willingly comes back down to the material world. But to get ultimate satisfaction, one must take shelter of Krishna, and one must hear about him from a spiritual master. Because one cannot approach Krishna just by uh, one's logical capacity or by observing the material world. One must hear from a self-realized person in parampara. And in uh, doing so, one can become convinced by that spiritual life is the uh, summum bonum, the highest good, and that material life is in fact this miserable condition or blazing fire. And of course, uh, different types of people learn in different ways or at different levels. One has it's described that depending on what mode of nature uh, one is in, one learns in different ways. Uh, one is in the mode of goodness. One can simply save so much trouble and hear. They can learn by hearing. That if somebody says, uh, this is a bad activity, this will lead to misery later on. Somebody who is first class can say, okay, then I will not do those activities and profit by that. Uh, and the second class, of course, seeing somebody perform such activities and have a bad result, and then recognizing that, okay, I will not do such activities. The third class, which I've also heard described as being learning in the mode of passion, is that I'll perform these activities by myself. And then once I get the negative results, then I will have enough intelligence and enough experience to say, okay, I will not do this again. I'll make a mistake once, but not twice. Then, of course, the mode of ignorance, fourth class learning, is that one repeats again and again. Uh, that uh, one uh, one repeats again and again one's mistakes and does not learn from it at all. And thinks that, oh, if I just change this small thing, then it'll be different. If I just change this small thing, it'll be different. So there are different ways of learning. Uh, um, so one should, if a uh, or if one is for whatever reason not able to do that, one can try to fulfill one's desires in a Krishna conscious way, or in a varnashram way, and try to become purified of that desire. There's this line in the purport today that the distinction between family life and spiritual life can be experienced by any person who has undergone the tribulations of living with a family. And we see in Shastra examples of different people who have gone under different forms of family life and had various tribulations as a result. One that comes to mind, especially because I was asked to say something about Lord Varaha, since we're fasting for him today. One example that comes to mind is the example of Diti and Kashyapa. Of course, it's described in the third canto that Kashyapa, the Prajapati, had two wives, Aditi, who was the mother of all the demigods, and Diti, who is the mother of the demons. And Diti approached Kashyapa at the improper time and uh, asked that they have a child together. In
Prabhu, your mic is muted.
Sorry, Zoom just messed up. Is everything back to normal now?
Yes.
Okay. So Lord Shiva uh, goes and basically gives reactions to people who engage in these activities at improper times. So we see we must, follow the correct process if we want the correct result. It's not that we can follow any process that we want or dream up or that makes us feel good, but we have, this is true in material life, in this case, in the case of Diti and Kashyapa, of starting a family, but also in devotional service, in Krishna consciousness, we must follow the correct process to get the correct result. It's not that we have the same attitude as kind of the spiritualists or pseudo spiritualists of today, where uh, whatever feels right, you go with. No, there's a certain process that is given to us by the acharyas, and if one wants to make advancements, one must follow this process uh, and not try to change it. So Lord Shiva, uh, yes, and Lord Shiva taking charge of this activity of placing certain his associates in the families of those who don't follow the process shows that actually all of the universe is personal. There are so many theories today about how kind of the decline in the quality of the population. Some say that uh, it's due to too much screen time, too much online activity. Some say that it's because of different things in the food. I've even heard some very demoniac people say that the decline in the quality of the population is because there are not enough abortions being performed. Uh, and but none of them are saying that because people are not following the process, these personalities are placing their ghostly associates, their demoniac associates in the families uh, of the people of today. But actually, all the universe is personal. So, Lord Shiva, in this case, coming from the example of Kashyapa and deities' pastimes, that are he's being merciful, Lord Shiva's being merciful to his associates. And then likewise, all across the universe, there is personalism at the highest very levels of reality. So in any case, eventually DT gives birth to Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. And both of them create havoc across the universe, doing so many various demoniac activities. And even though there's no reason or no imposition to fight, Hiranyaksha goes to Varuna, the demigod in charge of the waters, and basically mocks him and asks for a battle. even though there's really previously no quarrel or no reason for quarrel between Hiranyaksha and Varuna. Uh, Hiranyaksha being impelled by the lower modes, or at least in this past time up to be. We know, of course, Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha are uh, who are associates of Lord Vishnu, but in this past time, apparently being impelled by the lower modes, uh, goes and asks for a battle, even though there's no reason. And we can actually see today, throughout all of material life, so many people are asking for a battle of one way or another without any reason. There's so many uh, geopolitical or business or any sort of uh, issue with between one group of people and another. I know in one purport, Prabhupada gives the example that for thousands of years, India and China had uh, been at peace with each other, and now they're fighting over some much of land. Uh, because they're impelled by the lower modes. No reason for them to fight. I've heard from people that this certain patch of land that they're fighting over is not even so much suitable for human habitation, but still, because they're impelled, like we have to show our strength, we have to fight one another. So Varuna is not interested in fighting, but he says if you want a real battle, you must approach the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and then you will battle him, and then you will die, and your body will be eaten by dogs. Uh, so here in Yaksha says he wants to find Vishnu in order to fight him. So he approaches Narada Muni to learn where to find Vishnu. And Narada Muni, he is the friend to all living entities. We should actually follow in his footsteps of being everybody's well-wisher. Uh, the uh, um, yes, both the demigods and the demons approach Narada because they know that he has their best interest at heart. Even though, from a certain perspective, here in Yaksha is against everything that Narada stands for. Narada is considered the sage among the demigods and kind of the preceptor of devotional service. Hiranyaksha is an enemy of Lord Vishnu, but Hiranyaksha knows that Narada will give him the best instruction, no matter what his status of life. And likewise, devotees should always give people the best instruction and should be so broad-minded and compassionate that everybody feels that the devotee is their well-wisher. So Lord Vamana, or not Lord Vamana, Lord Varaha is lifting the earth from the waters, which Hiranyaksha has previously sunk, which angers Hiranyaksha, so they kind of trash talk each other, they fling harsh words, and then battle each other, which one can find the very glorious descriptions in the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, of the exact play-by-play of their fighting. And then, of course, Varaha eventually kills Hiranyaksha. And even this killing is for the benefit of Hiranyaksha, because the Lord's activities are inconceivable. Everything that Krishna does is glorious, and any contact with Krishna is always beneficial. That one always gains in one's interactions. It's described here and in other places that even if one is killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one gets so much benefit from that activity, because Krishna is absolute, and whatever one does in association with him, then one becomes benefited by that. And so we should try to associate with the Lord, preferably not in the way that Hiranyaksha or Hiranyakashipu or any of the demons associate with him, but in service. If one serves the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then one is benefited so much more. There's this phrase or saying in English that with friends like that, who needs enemies? But the Supreme Personality of Godhead benefits even his enemies. So how much more will he benefit those who are trying to serve him and develop friendship or various other relationships with him? So we should very seriously take up this Krishna consciousness process, and in doing so, escape the blazing fire of material existence and become satiated by association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So we have about 9 minutes left, assuming that everything is on time. So if there are any comments, questions, additions, either about the verse or about Lord Varaha.
Try to offer a few words.
Of course, Prabhu.
Thanks. Thanks for your class. Interesting and engaging.
Thank you.
Have a bunch of thoughts about this purport. Been thinking for a few days about these verses. The question of entering household life in Priyavrata was able to enter household life and remain unaffected. In other words, did not check his progress in Krishna consciousness, devotional service, because he was a devotee. Let's check my notes here for a minute. I was looking at Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary he says the reason is that devotees, the verse is indicating that devotees cannot be absorbed in family affairs. He says the reason is that they are attached to the Lord. Those whose minds constantly engage in meditation on the Lord are blissful because of the shade of the lotus feet, which extinguish samsara. So they do not have the ignorance of desires for family. Srila Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita 1855. No, excuse me, not 55. Chapter 2, text 59, right now. Param Drishvarni Vartate, that a higher taste. So this is the critical factor that because an actual devotee will have a higher taste in Krishna consciousness, he is essentially inoculated against the perils of developing material attachments in household life. But the caveat here is that one must actually be a devotee, because lots of people take up household life. Not everyone progresses in Krishna consciousness necessarily. Certainly the non-devotees don't. And sometimes we even see that individuals who are on the path of devotional service take up household life, and sometimes their progress is checked for a period of time. Although Srila Prabhupada indicates that because devotional service is eternal, it can never be checked. It will always progress, but sometimes the rate may become very slow. So I was thinking about how, forgive me, I'm a little muddle-headed today. But so my understanding, based upon what I've heard from Srila Prabhupada, is that while on the one hand, a devotee remains unaffected by his apparent material circumstances, those of us who are aspiring to become devotees, who are trying to develop our Krishna consciousness, are not necessarily at that stage yet at which we are going to be impervious to material influences. So therefore, we have to be careful about the actions that we take. If one thinks in a neophyte stage of Krishna consciousness that entering the household ashram is not going to be adversely affected, he may be in for a rude awakening. It has to be executed with care and attention to Krishna consciousness, because there are many pitfalls. It happens sometimes that devotees simply become fallen. Association of the opposite sex, day in and day out, constantly contemplating the objects of the senses, nature may its course. So devotees have to be strong in their practice of Krishna consciousness. This brings to my mind Mother Virgin Leela's question yesterday, which was, is the brahmachari ashram even necessary? And I was suggesting that those who don't have the benefit of the experience of brahmachari life would be disadvantaged. So this verse, Bhagavad Gita 259, Vishaya Varivartante Nirahara Sitehina Rasa Varjam Rasopyasya Param Grisvarni Vartate, that the embodied soul may be restricted from sense enjoyment, though the taste for sense objects remains. But ceasing such engagement by experiencing a higher taste, he is fixed in consciousness. So this is the benefit of brahmacharya, that in the brahmacharya ashram, an individual gets an opportunity to immerse himself in the higher taste of Krishna consciousness, unencumbered by other circumstances that may distract or compromise. His time is undivided. He can fully absorb himself in Krishna consciousness, and yields a wonderful taste in the service. And that taste then enables him to weather the various circumstances that he will encounter in the household ashram. Gives him strength. So those were some of my thoughts. Sorry, I'm a little tired today. That brings us up to 8 o'clock. Guess I'll pipe down. Thanks again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. Yes, I was very curious about what you're going to say with this verse, since I personally do not have experience of family life, at least not yet. So thank you for your thoughts. As you said, we are at 8 o'clock, so I'm guessing we should end here. Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai.